Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chessboard Baseball. I am APO. This is the channel where we evaluate hitters and plate appearances in a very different way, where we combine process and results to come up with an aggregate score. Today, we're going to be evaluating the series that just concluded between the Dodgers and the Giants. And this is a very different series than the Dodgers versus the Rockies. Dodgers versus Rockies, I was complaining about the pitching. I was like, pitching is terrible, but the offense is great. And the offense was great. It was unbelievable how good the offense was. Granted, it was Coors Field, where the ball tends to fly and everyone gets, their numbers get a little bit better when they play over there. Not the same thing when it comes to San Francisco and playing against the Giants. So here it was the inverse, right? Here pitching was amazing. All three pitchers, all three starters were unbelievable. Yamamoto was great after giving up an early lead. He just pretty much steadied and was able to go 7 innings. Shohei Ohtani was unbelievable with 6 innings, striking out as many as he did, and just a strong performance, a strong outing for him. And then Glasnow today was insane, right? 8 innings pitched, no earned runs, and the Dodgers were able to shut out the Giants. So very different in that. Also, the offense was terrible. It was really bad. I mean, you can't even set apart a memorable plate appearance because there wasn't any. And there were no home runs this series, barely any extra base hits. And I mean, for the Dodgers, it was, everyone's numbers just went down, and I'm not saying it's concerning per se. It's only a 3-game window, but it was really bad. So here, yes, we have an MVP, which I was MVP for Chessboard Baseball anyways, for the highest score for the series for these 3 games. And I was kind of like debating whether or not I would include this player because he only played 2 of the games. But yeah, I would include him because otherwise, I don't know, it would have been Freeman or something like that. So let's go over. So we're going to do the MVP of the series as far as the highest score, and then who had the lowest score for the series. After that, the best plate appearance, and then the worst plate appearance for the series. And that's it. Then we look forward to the series against the Cubs. So we'll just see, look at everyone's numbers and see how the Dodgers did. As far as offense, we don't get into pitching and Chessboard Baseball. So here we go. We have Dalton Rushing, who was the MVP for the series against the Giants as far as Chessboard Baseball score, with a score of 12.42. Did Rushing do anything crazy this series? No. He had a single with runners in scoring position and 3 walks. That was it. But pretty much his plate appearances were consistent. They were solid. They were pretty good. And yeah, I mean, way better than everyone else. As far as the 9 plate appearances that he had, let's actually look at the entire team so that we can get a sense and compare to everyone else. Okay, so here we go. These are the numbers. And as you can see, Rushing with a rook average of 12.42, clearly better than everyone else. Then after Rushing came Freeland, which, well, Will Smith and I don't know what happened with Will Smith. What the deal was. So he was brought in as a pinch hitter in the first game of the series, and then the second game he played and it was fine. He did okay. He didn't do anything crazy. But again, the strength of Will Smith is that he will swing at pitches in the strike zone. He will battle. So he's not always an easy out. But yeah, he swings at pitches that he needs to swing at. He lets go of those that he has no business swinging at. So Will Smith is just consistent. But production-wise, you see his numbers, like you see his OPS and everything else like that. No, I mean, he hasn't produced per se. But what he has produced is quality plate appearances. And that's something that he produces almost all the time. Difference to a lot of other players that we're going to get into here in a little bit. So Rushing, Smith, and then Freeland. And now Freeland is the one that we have to talk about, because again, you look at what he's done and you say, how can you mention Freeland? This dude is terrible. And he's not terrible. And I want to show you some things because as far as quality plate appearance, now he strikes out a lot, and I don't know why. Something needs to happen as far as his timing or something like that. But he does tend to strike out a lot, and he did strike out a lot in this series. But let's look at those strikeouts because not every strikeout is created equal, and that's partly why I built Chessboard Baseball is to differentiate between certain outcomes. You look at a strikeout and you dismiss it and you throw it just with everything else. And as maybe you should, but does process matter? Because you're saying, okay, only results matter, but I would argue that process matters as well. So let's look at the process for Freeland's strikeout. So here we go. The first game, yeah, he struck out 3 times and had a walk. But let's look at those 3 strikeouts because this is telling. For me, this is very telling. So look at the first strikeout. It was on a 3, so 6, he saw 6 pitches and he had a 3-2 count. So he had a full count, 3 balls, 2 strikes, and then he struck out swinging on a pitch that was actually in the strike zone. So, okay, he didn't contact, but process-wise, very sound. Second plate appearance of the same game. Again, 3-2 count. He actually had a 3-0 count. And then he saw 3 strikes in a row. Now that third strike it was one of those where he could have challenged and he would have walked. But I'm not sure if he's hesitating what he's being told as far as challenging, not used to the system. I don't know. But again, 3-2 count, 6 pitches, strikeout. Then the third plate appearance, he walked, right? So again, none of these, I mean, if you look at this, he did not swing at any pitches outside the strike zone. Even the fouls were a foul in the strike zone, foul in the strike zone, 2 fouls in the strike zone, and he did strike out swinging on a pitch in the strike zone. And again, his third strikeout on his 4th plate appearance, same thing. He had a 3-2 count. So on all his strikeouts, he had 3 balls, 2 strikes, and the process is pretty much sound. So okay, you can get mad at him, but the guy process-wise is doing what he should do. Now he needs to finally, make it happen and deliver some results. But you can't get mad at his approach because he's killing it. And then Chessboard Baseball does reward good, healthy process, which Freeland has. And if we look at today, yeah, that strikeout at the end. So he struck out once today. And yeah, that was kind of bad. But again, he saw 2 strikes and then he struck out swinging at a pitch in the strike zone, which you want him to do. But yeah, he walked. And I love that walk because he challenged. I think that's the one that he challenged and was able to walk because they were going to strike him out again. But he said, no, challenge. And then he was able to get his walk. And then he singled again. Again, you see here, he has not swung at any pitches outside the strike zone. So his approach is super sound. Here, fouled the pitch in the strike zone, which he flat out, they caught it not in play. So it was foul and then walked, saw 2 strikes, and then a foul in the strike zone, a ball, and then he did hit a single in the ball that was in the strike zone. So Freeland's process and approach is just insane. So that's why he comes up. When we look here, he has a 10.62 ROK average. That's why he comes up so high because his approach is really good. So we have Rushing, we have Smith, we have Freeland, we have Freddie Freeman, who again, his approach is always super sound. He may not produce all the time. He'll get his singles here and there. He'll get his walks here and there. But he's just another one of those players who's a beast at, identifying pitches that he needs to swing at and just putting together quality plate appearances. So Freeman's always going to be in the mix for series MVP. After Freeman, things get pretty bad. Then we have Muncy, who, he had a really good road trip for Muncy. So he remained consistent. He was the MVP of the series against the Rockies. And then he was almost the MVP of this series, but then his last 2 plate appearances weren't that great. But he's good. Right now, he seems to be in a good place and putting together solid plate appearances. After that, things get really bad. And I would talk about everyone, but let's look at the worst chessboard baseball score for this series against the Giants. And it's so bad. It's not even close. It's Shohei Ohtani with an embarrassing 3.69. And I say embarrassing because, I mean, anything below 3 is super terrible. And I hope that no Dodger ever gets there. But he was at 3.69. He's the only Dodger in the threes. 3.69 is insane. And I just want to show you because his plate appearances, the quality of his plate appearances are among the worst that I've ever seen. And I'm saying this recognizing that this dude is an MVP with his bat, that he hits 50 plus home runs, that he's Shohei freaking Ohtani. And this is the first time that I'm evaluating every game like this, so I don't know. I'm thinking, I mean, he had some really bad plate appearances in the playoffs last year, in the postseason, in the World Series, and leading up to the World Series. But just some examples of what makes his approach so bad. So here we go, and I highlight the third plate appearance because that third plate appearance was as bad as you'll ever see a plate appearance. I mean, and then contrast this contrast this with Freeland's approach. Now you have Ohtani's approach, and here you look. The first pitch, he just swung on a pitch that was way outside the strike zone, not even close. And then he fouled a pitch that was way outside the strike zone, not even close. Another one, same thing. I could just keep saying that. Luckily, he kept fouling pitches that were way outside the strike zone. And then he struck out on another pitch that was way outside the strike zone. Like he saw 5 pitches that were all balls. And he struck out not seeing a single ball. So I don't get it. I don't get what's happening. Is this just who he is? Is he rushing into it? I know he wants to make contact. I know he's not one of those hitters who's taking their time. He wants to make contact with the ball. He's anxious to make contact with the ball. He's not quite Javi Baez as far as that, although that is a Javi Baez type of plate appearance. But he's not quite Javi Baez. He can be. He has his Javi Baez moments. I know. I mean, I know he'll get it. I don't know what to say, other than the fact that yes, he was by far the worst player according to Chessboard Baseball, hitting wise, this series. Now pitching wise, he was amazing. It was great. He's awesome, and he's been awesome so far this season, anyways, in that category. And he's been okay. Result wise at the plate, he's got over 800 OPS still, even after this. So, his impact when it comes is huge. And that's the huge benefit of Ohtani. That's why there's no concern ever about making any adjustments, because you just know that his moment will come. So it's just this series was particularly bad. So I'm not saying that he's bad always. He was just really bad this series. But all it takes, maybe in Chicago, he'll start hitting bombs because he's more than capable of doing that. I just wish his approach was a little bit better. Now, Hernandez has been really bad. Pages has been really bad. So Tucker has been terrible as well. So those are all the ones that you see in red here. So you see Ohtani with the lowest, and then you see Pages right after Ohtani, although with a 2-point window. So Ohtani was like on an island by himself over there. Tucker was really bad as well the entire series, and luckily for this game, he didn't have to. He had a double and a single, which is good to see. But hopefully, you start to see more from Tucker in that sense. But that's it. And then as far as the best plate appearance, ironically enough, I just kind of swept the floor with Ohtani as far as overall series, but he did have the best plate appearance score for the series with a 25, and that was a single that he had a really good plate appearance. We can look at it real quick. So again, it was during the first game of the series, and he saw 6 pitches. He's a 3-2 count and connected for a single with runners on base. So that was a really good plate appearance for Ohtani. And you can see super sound, right? You can see a super sound approach. 3 balls, two strikes that he's looking, and then he did swing at a pitch in the strike zone that he put in play and singled off it. So really good. And then the worst plate appearance, as far as the lowest score, Chessboard Baseball, it was Teoscar Hernandez and Kim as well. So Hernandez and Kim were tied for the lowest at -9, which is a horrendous plate appearance. Let's see what they were about. So second game for Kim. Yeah, so essentially strike looking and then swinging at 2 pitches outside the strike zone for a strikeout for -9. And then Hernandez, pretty much the same thing. Strike looking and then swinging at 2 strikes outside the strike zone for a strikeout, -9. So that's pretty much it for this video. Not the best series for the Dodgers for sure. Hoping that, I mean, you can get more, especially against a team against the Giants, and especially against the outings that you had from Yamamoto, from Ohtani, from Glasnow. Thankfully able to win the Glasnow game because he did not allow a run in 8 innings. But the offense did not show up. The offense struggled quite a bit, but pitching is there. At least from the starters. The bullpen still remains to be seen. Starters looking good. Offense I'm sure, will wake up again, because you have nothing but all-stars here. Some people I'm concerned about, like Hernandez for sure. Like everyone else, it's fine. Even Ohtani having that horrendous of a series, never a concern with Ohtani because Hernandez I'm really concerned about. And especially him hitting third and sometimes cleanup. Roberts has this dude hitting third, which is, I mean, he's just a rally killer. He'll either double play you or a really bad strikeout, or he's just terrible. I mean, if you want to play Hernandez, but hit 7th or 9th or something like that, sure. But 3rd, 4th, Dave Roberts, I don't know if he's trolling us or something, because no way Hernandez should be hitting 3rd or 4th in this lineup. And that's to me, that's bad decision making. And again, I love Dave Roberts. I'm not, but I don't know. And again, it could be him encouraging the players, and especially maybe he knows Hernandez better than I do, right? So maybe that encouraging Hernandez by saying, "Hey, you're hitting third, like, hey, we'll believe in you. Don't get too down on yourself." I get it. I get if you do that. And Hernandez has potential. We've seen it. He's got power and everything like that, but he's just terrible, in my opinion. So we'll see how they do against the Cubs coming up. And series starts tomorrow. But that is it for this breakdown of Dodgers versus Giants. Win 1 of 3 and head home to face the Cubs. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.